TopMedTalk.
Monty Mython here. As we prepare to move into the next phase of the COVID crisis, we're going to be widening our focus here on TopMedTalk. We will continue to deliver COVID-specific programs, but we all have a huge additional responsibility as we try to reboot normal services. So although this piece is not directly related to COVID-19, we believe it's information that is crucial to the bigger task of rebuilding the healthcare system as we learn to adapt and live with this new virus. Thank you to our sponsors and to you, our listeners, for helping us to share this important information.
Nick Majerison here, and of course regular listeners to TopMedTalk will know it was at this time of year that Anaesthesia 2020 was planned in Manchester. Unfortunately, it has been postponed to next year. So, all this week, we're playing some clips from last year's excellent conference. Enjoy.
Our final lightning round of speakers is Mike Grocott, well known to everyone, a prof from Southampton, who will speak on the UK Centre for Perioperative Care.
Hopefully many of you will have heard of this. Some of those visiting from abroad may not. Some of those from the UK may not, but I hope most of you have. This is, I guess, what I'll talk about is a step on a journey both for the college and for us as a specialty. I think we've had a slow evolution of identity. So the perioperative medicine appears in the literature first in the late 60s, early 70s. And Ross Kerridge, who I hope is here, sitting on the end of the row over there, first started writing about what we would recognise as perioperative medicine in the late 80s. And we started in the UK to name things as perioperative medicine in the first part of this decade. So first the NIHR specialty group changed from being anaesthesia to being anaesthesia, perioperative medicine and pain. And then in 2014, and I'll come back to this in a moment, the college started its perioperative medicine programme. In 2018, the association, which I think originally had been somewhat sceptical, rebranded from being the AAGBI to being the Association of Anaesthetists, and in doing so changed their strapline to lead with perioperative medicine. And in 2019, about a month ago, the Centre for Perioperative Care was launched. And the Centre for Perioperative Care very much builds on the college work initiated by JP Bambasau, led by Monty, who's here in the front row. That has been very patient-centred. And to me, that's what is so appealing about perioperative medicine. It's patient-centred, therefore it's not all about us, all the surgeons, all the geriatricians, or any other particular specialist group. It's about doing the right thing. And from that follows the fact that it is inevitably pathway-focused. The patient has a particular journey from the first moment they think about surgery right through to hopefully when they recover. And therefore it's obviously multidisciplinary, and it's obviously integrated, by which I mean incorporating involvement of primary care and secondary care and other carers. And the Centre for Perioperative Care will build on the original definition that we coined in the document in 2014, so the integrated multidisciplinary medical care of patients from the moment of contemplation until full recovery, although I would now put brackets around the medical bit for reasons I'll come back to in a moment. And in some ways strengthens that, so the vision statement explicitly says our patients' best interest should at all times drive the development, dissemination, delivery of perioperative medicine. The college has very clearly placed perioperative medicine at the centre of what it sees the future of anaesthesia to be, which is not to detract from our traditional role as caregivers within the operating room, within the operating theatre, ensuring patients are safe and effectively anaesthetised. But I think it builds on that role. And it does so because the membership seem to want that. So this was a membership survey from last year, in which over 2/3 of individuals who were surveyed, and it covered well over half the membership, expressed a view that perioperative medicine was important to them. And in terms of the key roles of the college, perioperative medicine by nearly 50% was seen to be something that should be one of the central roles of the college. So this is the ambition, to establish and lead within the Royal College of Anaesthetists a Centre for Perioperative Care, which is all about collaborative working. So recognising that this is not something that team anaesthesia can do on their own, it's something that anaesthesia will be doing alongside surgeons and physicians and nurses and others. But there is a role for anaesthesia when at the bedside in leading that team, although in different institutions the team could be led by different individuals, and there's a role for the College of Anaesthetists, which has been welcomed by the other colleges in leading this initiative. So importantly, it's a centre, not a faculty. And the reason that is because the natural evolution of a faculty seems to be independence. So we've seen it in the longer term in Australia, where the Faculty of Intensive Care Medicine split from anaesthesia and is now completely split. And my understanding is that those specialties are very distinct in a way that contrasts with the UK, but I think we're on the same journey in the UK. We've established a Faculty of Intensive Care Medicine, and the two specialties are slowly moving apart. I was a great enthusiast for that as a young intensivist. As I've got a little bit older, I'm not sure that's the right direction. And I think for simple practical reasons, most anaesthetists are intensivists, and we probably should be cautious in that. And certainly for perioperative care, I think it would be a disaster for the Royal College of Anaesthetists if a separate faculty of perioperative medicine was set up. So it's a centre based at the College of Anaesthetists, but welcoming all types of healthcare providers. And it's care because it's not just about the doctors. And we probably like to think that the doctors are the centre of the universe, but actually much of this care is delivered by non-physician providers, be they nurses, allied health professionals or others. And so the ambition is to be truly multidisciplinary. So the notion of a centre for perioperative medicine is therefore inappropriate. So Centre for Perioperative Care. And it's kind of like a mini college. So it will, for our college and other colleges, take the role in standard setting, training, professional education, quality improvement, research, policy development, all the things that you would expect a college to engage with. I think our timing is very fortunate. The priorities that we now see nationally in terms of the NHS long-term plan, integrated care, prevention, that perioperative medicine is very, very well aligned with those priorities. And the notion of collaboration, I think, is fundamental to the centre. So we will work closely with key organisations, and the board has non-executive directors from each of the colleges of physicians, surgeons, general practice and nursing, along with the Association of Anaesthetists and 2 patient representatives. And it's about coordinating the various initiatives of those organisations and a much broader family across the NHS. I think we in the UK, along with colleagues in Australasia, in Australia, New Zealand in particular, have led a lot of this work globally, and I think we should continue to do that because I think it's the right thing to do for patients, and therefore there is a global agenda. And in passing, I really do want to thank those that have been involved in setting this up. Chris Snowden and Mike Swart have been the medical leads at the college, Anne-Marie Bogard, Sharon Drake, who many of you may not know, but who's the director at the college, who's been leading this, and William Harrop Griffiths. And I've also found a very rare picture in his natural environment of probably the person most closely involved with this. So Monty Mython, who was the person tasked by JP Bambasale back in 2014 in leading the perioperative medicine programme, and really all this work builds on what he has done at the college. So the activities will be aligned not around clinical themes, but around activity-based work streams. These are a list of the work streams. I will zip through them very quickly before the discussion. So at the centre of it is improving quality of care through defining best practice and ensuring the implementation of best practice through the mechanisms that we already have in place. So GPAS, AXA, the guidelines, the accreditation of departments, and increasingly the audit, so the quality assurance and improvement mechanisms we have through NELA and PQIP and other expanding audits. In terms of the guidelines, those of you here earlier in the week will have seen the launch of the joint prehab guidelines focused on cancer with Macmillan and the NIHR. And the next step is to work with Diabetes UK, common clinical problem identified by PQIP as a key issue, on some perioperative pathway-focused guidelines for diabetes. And importantly, with implementation at the heart of the thinking in terms of the development of the guidelines. So how can we use GPAS and AXA and PQIP and other mechanisms to actually ensure that these are not just guidelines, that are out there sitting on a desk somewhere. They're guidelines that can be implemented and monitored. Patients are very much at the heart of this, and so developing patient-focused resources, working with patients will be very important. So building on work that's already been done by the colleges, but the idea of web-based resources to support shared decision-making, to support prehabilitation and healthy living through apps or websites or whatever the appropriate technology is. And that, as I mentioned, builds on work we've already done, particularly around fitter, better, sooner, preparing for surgery, but increasingly focusing on, certainly on the short term, on shared decision-making and also perioperative brain health. And there's a picture of Lee, our chair there, who's leading that initiative in the US. Supporting professionals, so recognising that the workforce issues are important, and there's a lot to do in terms of education, training, and potentially credentialing. So anaesthetists in the UK are by definition perioperative physicians based on their training, but there are other medical specialists who may wish to acquire credentialing in perioperative medicine where it's not part of their primary qualification. I think the influencing of policy will be important, and so we'll work with the policy group at the college to do that and try to highlight perioperative medicine within national priorities and engage with the NHS and government in that regard. And we've done reasonably well on this. So this is a document that was produced that may not have been read very widely out in anaesthesia departments around the country, but certainly has been read in government and is now being quoted in government about the opportunities offered by perioperative medicine for integrated care systems. And it sounds very dry, but I actually recommend it to you. It's a good read. The fifth theme is technology and digital, and clearly a lot of how we will execute this strategy over time will be based on these kind of resources, electronic health records as they come in, web-based resources, that kind of thing. And then research and innovation. We've got a great track record at the college of research innovation through the Health Services Research Centre, the Clinical Trials Network, but also working with the other colleges and the infrastructure that they have. And there will be clinical work streams that intertwine with that, so there are many opportunities for individuals to have roles as part of this. We're clearly not going to do all these things from day one, but we will slowly pick off different priorities. As I've mentioned, diabetes is going to be an early priority. Brain health will be an early priority, for example. And it's a little bit dry, but I'll show you this slide for two reasons. The first is we've now appointed our director, so Dave Selwyn, who's been the lead medical director on the college council for a number of years, has now been appointed after a competitive interview process as the director. We're about to appoint a deputy director, so we will have the staff in place. We've also appointed a fellow. But the important thing to note is we have, as non-executive directors, representatives of other colleges, so the collaboration is meaningful. I'll close there. Happy to take any questions, but I guess the key take-home is perioperative care is all about the patient. It is inevitably multidisciplinary, multi-specialty and collaborative. And it aligns with the triple aim that we've been talking about a lot over the last couple of days, so focusing not only on the health of the patient, but also the health of the population and value. Thank you very much for listening.
It's Desiree Chappell here. Just a quick reminder, subscribe to TopMedTalk. We're a daily source of news and conversation focused on perioperative care. We bring you all the latest talk from all the major conferences in the perioperative space. We can also be found on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and we now have a free mailing list with special offers and additional goodies for subscribers. Go check us out at TopMedTalk.com. That's www.topmedtalk.com.